we shall see. Obviously, we have a matchup coming up with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes.
So, first and most important question, are you going to the game?
No, I'm not. I wish, but I'm not.
I was thinking about tailgating, doing a little Halloween tailgate. We'll
That
see.
sounds spooky.
But it does sound spooky. And you know what
Sounds
else is spooky? Is that we stand the chance to lose 3 games in a row unless we get past the Cincinnati Bengals. So when you look forward, when you look at this matchup, obviously Brock Purdy is potentially out. That's probably the biggest story here. I would presume that Trent Williams might still be out. Certainly Debo's going to be out. Again, kind of another surprise. It went from, this is all day-to-day sort of pain management. Like, are they just chill enough to deal with the pain? And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, Debo might be out a couple of weeks. I don't know about this. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
But sure enough, we're going to be short a couple of Pro Bowlers. What do we need to look to achieve victory here? What are your concerns when it comes to this matchup?
I mean, how long do we have? Brock Purdy might not.
We have to
play.
fit in affirmations, but
That's true. Yeah, man. I don't know if maybe there's a ton of concerns. Really, at this point, Cincinnati is, if they almost feel like a sleeping giant. They're in 4th place in the AFC North right now, 3-3. And I think if you ask me which team's going to win the AFC North, it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. I really think the matchup to watch here is kind of what it was on Monday night, is how are the Niners going to contain Joe Burrow? And now it's not Kirk Cousins throwing to Jordan Addison. It's Joe Burrow throwing to Jamar Chase. T. Higgins, guys like that. And you start kind of getting uncomfortable thinking, well, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, the Niners secondaries in shambles. Not in shambles is too strong of a word, but there's some concerns in the secondary. The pass rush can't get to the quarterback, and I think we talked about this last time, and this kind of leaks into trade deadline talk. I really expect the Niners to address the pass rush before the secondary. If you remember 2019, they signed D Ford, they get Nick Bosa. They don't really address the secondary other than signing Jason Verrett, and they were coming off a year where they finished with 2 interceptions.
right.
The Niners have always been big believers in addressing the secondary with the pass rush because the pressure numbers are still there. Like the Niners are getting pressures at the rate we're used to. It's just they're not getting the sacks we're used to now at this point. And at some point you need to finish the play. And if you can get pressure on Joe Burrow, that's great, but he has the ability to move the pocket. And now if you can't finish that sack, you're now putting stress on Charvarius Ward and Diamador Lenore and Isaiah Oliver against these very good Cincinnati receivers, where it's like, okay, you got to cover them now for 3-4 seconds. Where Jamar Chase, you're going to be lucky if you get maybe a second and a half of good coverage on him. So the night, like it's, I don't want to say it's like panic button yet in terms of the Niners pass rush not getting sacks, but like if we're talking about another 1 or 2 sack performance and Joe Burrow goes off for 350 yards and the Niners are 6-3 going into trade deadline, it might be panic button time in terms of the second or in terms of the pass rush. I'm not going to put the panic button yet on the team. I am concerned about their Super Bowl contendership at this point. But a lot of that can go away with a win on Sunday against the Bengals because, yes, while the Bengals have struggled, they're still the Cincinnati Bengals. They're still a very good team. And if you can escape with a win against this team, especially with Sam Darnold as your quarterback, you have to feel good about that. But if you lose, now it's I don't know about you, Patrick. I don't know if I will be able to handle 2 weeks of content in the bye week of a team on a 3-game losing streak. Like that feels, I'm already tired thinking about it. And so this is an important game. Is it a must win? I don't think so. The Lakers last night, that was a must win, but Niners Bengals, I don't think it's a must win yet.
Yeah, I'm a tired motherfucker in general. So like the idea of having to deal with people who are upset again just drives me through the roof.
Yes.
I have to believe the 49ers are going to win this one. The biggest question I have is if it is Purdy out, Darnold in, does the job still get done? I'm thankful that Darnold has so many starts under his belt so
Yes.
that at least the concern isn't like some first year kid being like, oh, the lights are too bright. Like, we know at minimum the stage will not be too big. The question is, does he have enough reps under his belt? Does he, you know, is the timing going to be as efficient? Because that's the one thing with Purdy, baby, is it that engine was humming when he was in control, when the timing was good, when I don't give a fuck about the deep, and he was still hitting like deep enough passes, but like give me the little 5, 7, 8 yarders, 10 yarders all day, because we know that they specifically engineered this roster to catch a few extra yards after after the initial reception, right? George Kittle is going to knock out a few people on his way to balling as far as he can go. Debo Samuel, same thing. Brandon Ayuk, very elusive. He's going to hurdle you into the sunset.
Yes.
So I would presume that Sam Darnold has the skill set. At least that's what the fucking national media would like me to believe. That he has the skill set to fill in this gap as seamlessly as we can hope. And then as far as the rest of the team, I think Steve Wilkes, I would hope, has the competitive spirit in him to recognize what he didn't do right in potentially, costing that last 16 seconds. And then two, I think really digging deep to say, I'm that fucking guy and I'm going to prove it.
Yep.
Clearly enough people have a strong belief in him in that building. Certainly they did in Carolina. That team in Carolina looked a lot different when he took over versus the previous coach over there, even though he was an interim coach. So I do believe that there are people who believe in what he's doing. But at this stage, with as much smoke as we've seen come out of that of our organization lately with respect to his performance, I don't think he's as bad as people think. I just think Kyle's a perfectionist, and I think that when with that perfection comes an expectations of perpetual greatness and ruthless consistency. And so that's what I would hope to see. I would like to believe we win this one 5-2 against 3-3. Yes, it's Jamar Chase. Yes, it's Joe Burrow. Yes, it's T. Higgins. There are weapons on that team. I wouldn't even sleep on the running backs on that team, to be honest with you. But with that being said, I think we have a lot of players who are steaming with the desire to get a victory before we get into this bye week.
Yeah.
I think it's a victory. I think it's a close one. I don't know if we get 30 points. I do think we get out of victory. Yeah. What do you think?
I think they get a victory. It's not, as I said, it's not a must win, but like it's you would like to win this one. And I feel like going into not just going into the bye week, but going into the trade deadline with a little bit of momentum, and maybe you add that momentum by getting insert whatever player you want to trade for here. You get that momentum and you carry it through, and then you go, okay, well, Jacksonville after the bye, you maybe get a little momentum rolling there. Because November, the schedule starts to get a little tough because there's that little 3-game stretch of at Seattle, Philadelphia, Seattle again. And that stretch could really be the difference between
wild card versus
we'll keep the 1 seed as a pretend thing right now. I don't think the Niners are anywhere near that spot right now. I don't think Philly's they might not lose much anymore. They're very good, and getting Byard really helps. But you're looking at a point where that 3-game stretch could decide, the Niners being the 1 seed or the Niners being the 5 seed. Because, if worst case scenario, and I don't think this is going to happen. I think the Niners are better than Seattle. Let's say they lose to Cincinnati 6-3, and then they win up until that Philadelphia point, but they lose those 3 games. You're at 6 losses. And that's not winning the division. That's not getting you a home game in the playoffs. And so the Niners would like, if the 1 seed is the priority of this season, I'm not saying the Niners aren't a playoff team, because they absolutely are. They're making the playoffs. Like, let's not overreact that hard. But if the Niners really want to be that 1 seed and really have that home field throughout, they need to start winning games now. and that
Yeah.
needs to start with Cincinnati, because do you think Philadelphia is going to lose 3 games?
You don't want to play. You don't want to play an away game in the playoffs in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
You do not want that.
Yeah,
I
and then
wouldn't wish
Axel,
that upon my
and
worst
then
enemy.
Axel also mentions Baltimore too. Baltimore on
I
Christmas.
was just about to pull that one up,
after
actually.
that little stretch too. Like it's not an easy stretch. Randy, thank you. Hey, gentle bearded man, I like that. Oh, men, I like that. I like that. Should be our podcast.
Well, yeah,
name,
we are gentle bearded men. If we ever start a podcast,
did y'all know Kyle is 11-16 in October? I did not, but I know that now. Thank you, Randy Daytona.
thank you, Randy Daytona.
So we'll see. We'll see. But what's Randy Daytona? What's his record in November and December? Because I would imagine is significantly different.
Yes,
sir. So listen, as I said, it's not a panic button game, but if you think the 1 seed is attainable at this point, Sunday then is a must win if you want the 1 seed. But if you don't want the 1 seed, you just want to get in the playoffs, it's not a must win yet, because the Niners are not going to be at that point. But a 1 seed's looking a little sussy right now there, I say.
Here's what I'll say. I think last year is a really good example. There were so many times last year where I was like, it's over. Like, I don't know who we think we're going to really be. We're not Super Bowl bound. And then we get hot, and then I'm like, I need to shut the fuck up because we are incredible.
Yep.
I know we saw it. I mean, like, we spent the first 5 weeks basically being with all of the NFL media being like, there's nobody who's going to stop the 49ers. They're incredible. They're so fast. They're so dynamic. The defense is still strong. Who's going to stop them? I still believe these things.
Yes.
Look, we're down a couple of really important players right now. Mm-hmm. And you could say, oh, well, that's the only reason why Brock Purdy was so successful this year. I don't give a fuck. This is our team. This is what we got. And they were working really well together. As far as I'm concerned, I feel very confident that, yes, for sure, like you said, I'm not even going to get into semantics about are we or not going to make the playoffs. We're going to make the playoffs. Yep. The question then becomes, what is our seed? And how do we put ourselves in a position where we're not playing a fucking cold game in Philadelphia with everything on the line again? And that's my hope, is that we don't have to put ourselves in that position and we put someone else in Santa Clara and make them make that call. And I think that if our team can get hot, like we have a tendency to do towards the end of the year, if we can get hot, if we can be healthy, if we can put ourselves in a position where the defensive concerns have shored themselves up, hopefully we make a trade that, takes us over the edge. That's what I think could get us into a position where we are sitting there wondering, is this our year again? Because I haven't lost faith, but obviously stretches like this bring too many questions into the mind and rile up too many in the fan base to be frustrating.
Yeah, and first of all, I appreciate Randy listing November, December, January records, and at the very end, just February 0-1. Like that,
Randy.
That one hurts a little bit. But don't show the last one though. Don't show the February record.
I'm not going to.
February football isn't played in February.
But I'll put
There's
this
no
one
games
up.
In February. Yeah, I mean, how different is this conversation if it's 2021 and there's still 6 playoff teams?
Yep.
And now you're talking 2 bye spots. And I know you don't want to go to Philadelphia in the winter, being the 2 seed, but I just feel like there only being 1 bye spot changes these dynamics so much, because I think there's 3 painfully obvious tiers in the NFC right now. It's the Eagles up here, the Niners here, and then the Lions here.
Mm-hmm.
There's no I don't think at this point, if there was 2 first-round buys to be had, I don't think there'd be a conversation of the Lions jumping the Niners, no matter what A to Z Sports says about the Lions being better than the Niners. But the dynamic has totally changed. There's only 1 bye spot. The Niners cannot lose games. But I like your positivity on it. I like the spin, because this team is good. These last 2 weeks are not indicative of what the 2023 49ers are. They're going to have rough stretches, and I would rather them get the rough stretches out in October than in December, January, February, when the games really start to count.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
I say
sir.
that to myself now because of the.
Do you?
I do.
Aw.
I do the yes sir like in my head, like a small accomplishment, like I vacuumed, yes sir. It's in my head.
That's so fun. All your friends are like, dude, we can't invite him out anymore. He just keeps yes sirring everything.